Hey, it's Joseph here. I recently had an opportunity to work on a simple retail project. It was actually a small gym project that I was working for my friend. And I thought this project might be a good opportunity for me to share some of the workflows with you guys. So in this video, I'll cover the basics of Revit modeling and doing the drawings, and then also using that specific model to produce some renderings and visualization on Lumion as well. And in addition to Revit and Lumion, I'll also use some of the files that are coming from SketchUp side to show you how I integrate that into Revit and also Lumion. So please stick along and I'll be able to show you. So the final result is going to look something like this and also this. And today's video is actually sponsored by MSI. MSI makes a great workstation laptops like this one right here that are meant for complex architectural work. Anything from heavy document handling such as viewing and commenting on complex PDF drawings to graphic work such as Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and also the video editing inside of Premiere Pro, and 3D modeling, rendering, and even VR presentations are not really a problem with this kind of machine. And thanks to the high performance and large 16GB of VRAM that NVIDIA Quadro 5000 offers, this laptop is able to pretty much handle anything. This specific laptop is equipped with 4K mini LED display that is not only color accurate but also vibrant and bright as well. And all of these great spec that's packed into this form of laptop means that you're gonna get great performance, even sometimes better than your desktops as well. And to demonstrate the capabilities of this laptop, I'll be doing screen recording off of this WS75 for me to show you what I am doing on this machine. So please forgive me if the screen is just covering the half of the frame. And just like any sensible person, I'll be using this mouse with a dedicated scroll wheel and a button for me to do 3D modeling easy. Okay, so let's go ahead and download some of the project files. So I'm gonna just connect this USB-A port. We certainly cannot take USB-A ports for granted nowadays. Okay, here is the project folder. So I'll be copying that and just pasting onto my desktop here. So inside of this folder, here is a typical type of drawing that you can expect from your landlord or the client. And obviously this is not good enough, so I'll save you some agony of looking at blurry images and trying to get any meaningful information out of this. And I have prepared a clean PDF for you guys. And we should be able to get information a lot easier by picking the vector lines instead of trying to decode what is going on this non-flat image. So let's go ahead and start Revit. Okay, so today I'm going to be using Revit 2021 version. Let's start from scratch. So click on New and then select Imperial Architectural Template. Okay, and then from here I'm gonna bring the PDF file that I had showed you. So I'll just click on Insert and then Link PDF. And then Plan 01, which is the one that I was using. I really like this PDF import or link function that Revit has took on, and I'm gonna change the resolution to 300 instead of 72 as a default, and then OK that. And then I'm just gonna place it in the middle. And also I'm gonna try and enable the snaps to utilize all the vector lines that is within the file. And sometimes the drawing actually could come in at a wrong scale, and I'm not sure what these numbers are supposed to be for this specific drawing, so we're gonna go about just scaling it. So from scale tool, I'll be able to snap on this line to that line, and that is supposed to be 30 feet. So 30 feet, enter, and that should be scaled correctly. I guess the number in the end had to be these kind of weird numbers. But let's go ahead and measure it. So that is supposed to be 30 feet. That is 30 feet, that is correct. And let's also go ahead and check on this line right here. And that is 33 feet with a little bit of tolerance. That is looking fine there. So I'm fine to go ahead. So let's go ahead and go to Architecture tab under Datum, pick on Grid, and let's make sure we pick Lines. And then we're just gonna click on these lines to snap the grids on place. And I recommend going from 1 to 5 in order, and not worry about the length of the tail, as we can just grab it later on and then increase their size, and everything will just kind of follow as you change one. And then the next one, we're going to continue on here, and then that's going to change to 6 instead of A. So we're going to change to A, and once we do that, Revit should understand the next ones following will be consecutive ones, and then we can just increase the tail length so that everything is looking fine. So at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and save this file. So save as a project and onto the desktop, and we're just gonna call it the Gym 01, enter. And from here, let's go ahead and start drawing some walls. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pick generate 12-inch wall for the simplicity's sake, and then pick line as well. And then on the location line, I'm gonna pick the finish face interior. That way I can just snap onto the interior of the walls and then expect the walls to kind of align together. And even if they don't join, I'm not gonna worry about them, as I can just trim that later. So I don't need to continue this wall here. So I can turn the corner here, as well as just snapping onto this line here, and that's it. And then with the trim function, TR for short, or you can just click on this icon here, and then I can just trim those things, unjoin elements in this case, delete instance. That is a little bit weird. Let's undo that and see what is going on here. So let's trim that again. Okay, that's fine. And then let's trim here, and then trim this one piece here as well. So the outer line of the exterior wall is fine. In this case, this is actually a demising wall, but we're not gonna make that distinction at the moment. And let's go back to make more interior walls as well. So for me to continue on making the interior walls, I can click on one of the wall and then do create similar, CS. And then from here, I'm gonna click on generic 6-inch for, again, simplicity's sake, and then make sure I've got finish face interior, and then pick line as well. So that way I can snap onto those edges. Again, same practice of not necessarily needing to continue on all the edges, but I can just snap onto a couple of lines, and then later on I can trim them as I need them. So that is fine there. And then I can do the front column or the storefront detail that we have here. So I can go around this. And then if I wish to, I can just use the line tool to just kind of go around the interior face, and if it's flipped, I can just hit spacebar once to flip them and then kind of go around the corner. This may be a little bit easier for the storefront stuff, and then I may need to peel this back a little bit so that it joins properly, and then basically trim this wall onto this face right here so that kind of joins correctly there. Same practice, just click on this one, CS for create similar. Okay, let's go ahead and click on line, flip that by pressing spacebar once, and then just go around, join them as a rectangle. Same thing over here. Okay, so all the walls have been created. Let's go ahead and trim this as well. So I can go to modify. So there is actually a trim function, but also there's a trim extend single element. So I can click on that and then select this line here, and then just bring this wall all the way down. I actually usually assign a short key of TT for that function, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just not going to use that short key, and rather just pull that wall there. And then also here, I can just join this wall correctly into there, and then trim that again. Just pull this into this wall so that it joins properly. Same practice here. I can pull that into the exterior wall, and that way all the intersections of the wall is joined properly. So all I need to do is put down some doors, DR for short, or just press on this icon here under the architectural tab. And then we're just gonna use just a regular default door, although they're kind of terrible. We're just gonna go ahead and use that. So one on the back, and then they should all just kind of line up. To flip that, again, hit spacebar, and that should be easy enough. And that's all the doors that I have. And we need to work on this opening or threshold. So rather than describe what the space looks like, I can actually show you. So this is a 360 scan or 360 photo, panoramic photo that I have captured of the space. And that is a threshold that I was talking about. It's looking like roughly 8 feet by 8 feet threshold. That might be slightly less than 8, but we're just going to kind of draw that and judge it ourselves. So let's go ahead and do that. Just have a good mental picture of what the space is looking like. It's basically a box with some red and blue accents, and the tile ceiling on the top and carpeted floor, but we're gonna try and renovate this space into a gym project. So let's go ahead and find the right family to put it in there. And actually Revit ships with some of the families that we can use. So just click on the door, and instead of using included family in here, load another family. And under the English Imperial, I can just double click onto the door portion here. And then here is the door opening. So this is the one without the swings of the door. So open that. And then if I actually put one down, you'll see that is quite small. So we need to modify its size, as we don't have one that is suitable for us. We need it to be 8 feet by 8 feet. So we can just go ahead and edit type. The first step is to duplicate 96 inches by 96 inches, as well as all of the measurements are actually done in inches. And then we need to change this. So 96 or 8 feet in this case. And then again 8 feet. Okay, and then that now has changed. It is coming out pretty big. We can use move MV for short, and then it is probably too big here, so we're gonna try and reduce it down to, let's say, 6 feet wide. So edit type, again, we're gonna rename it to correct measurement. We can just change it to 72 inches, and then okay that. And then also the width is actually going to be 6 feet. Okay, so now if we just match this corner on to up against the wall, then we should be good. So let's go ahead and also put down some dimensions on the grid line, just to make sure that we are square in terms of the measurements that we got. So I'm just gonna put the same type of measurements here. And obviously there's going to be a bit of tolerance that is implemented, since we are using PDF that has been somewhat scaled. So let's go ahead and match this to 18 feet so that everything is lined up correctly. Same thing here, 25 feet. And let's make sure not any of these is coming in a funny number. And same thing for the grid line. Maybe I should have done this before I put down any of the walls, but at least I am just catching this right now. So all the numbers are now squared up on the grid line at least. And let's go ahead and put down the shop front and the column as well. For this practice, I'm gonna actually hide the plan, so I wanna make sure that I only see the elements that I have drawn. If I want to do that, the short key is just click on the plan element and then just hit EH to hide the element. For now, I can actually go to reset hide, RH for short, and then just click that element, unhide element, and then toggle that to bring it back in. But for putting the column down, because we kind of have shifted the grid lines, I just wanted to make sure we don't see the plan here. So let me go ahead and choose the architectural column, and then a rectangular one. The reason why that I'm choosing this one is because I'll be splitting the face to paint the column in a different color, and that's only possible in the architectural column. And then this is actually needing to be 1 by 1 column, which doesn't exist here. So let me go ahead and edit type again, duplicate that into 12 inches instead. So that has been made there. So let's go ahead and put one here. I accidentally put one here, so let's go ahead and delete that one. And also let's put down some Shopfront. So I can go to the wall again, and from here we can choose Shopfront, and then I'm gonna put one down up here, and then that is actually coming reversed. So I'm gonna hit spacebar once so that it kind of lines up that way. Click this one again, create similar, CS for short, and then I'm gonna try and line up into this one. Again, hit spacebar once so that it lines up correctly up against this wall. And then I actually don't need it that long, so I'm just gonna bring it down to here so that it is just running up against this column here. And if you actually look at the store, the front doesn't have glass. This is actually just the shutter, and then the either side of the storefront has mullion-less, frameless glass. So we're gonna try and demonstrate that instead. And then we are also going to use room separator. So just click on that one there, and then just bring it down along this side of the front. That way this can be defined as one room. But let's also get rid of the mullions of this curtain wall or the storefront. So let's go ahead and edit type and duplicate, and then we're just gonna call it without mullion, or let's just call it without frame. And then we can just, on the vertical mullions and the horizontal mullions, we can just choose none, and then delete mullions. And then same thing for this one, change the type to the without a frame, and then delete mullions. And that way we have storefront without mullions, and that is looking good. So let's dedicate some room and room numbers as well. Short key is RM, or that will be this icon right here, room. And then once we dedicate the room on this one, the back room here, the corridor, and then the man and woman restroom here. I actually don't like seeing the room numbers, and I'd like to see the room areas. So I'm gonna choose this tag here. I click it, select all instances visible in the view so that it selects all 5 of them. And then on the drop down, I'm gonna use the room tag with area. But again, I don't like to see the number of it. So I can actually go ahead and uncheck this one. And then you'll realize the area is actually really far away from the room name. So we're gonna modify that. So double click into there. Actually, instead of having the number there, I'm gonna just choose the bottom 2 elements here, move it up to kind of overlap where the room number is going to be, and then load into project and close. I'm not gonna save that, but I'm gonna use the new parameter, and there you go. So the area has now been moved up to all the tags, and then we're gonna have to name them correctly. So if we just select a tag, you can go ahead and name them. So this is gonna be the gym area or the main floor, and then this is going to be back room or storage. Let's just go ahead and call it storage. Men, women, and then this is gonna be corridor, and then that is good. Let's go ahead and save, and then look at 3D of this. Okay, so once we look at the 3D, you will kind of realize that the walls are quite high, but also the column is quite short. So let's go ahead and increase the height of the column. Let's go ahead and match other walls. So other walls are level 1, base offset is 0, but the top constraint is unconnected and unconnected to 20 feet. So let's just put down 20 feet for the top offset and level 1. So 20 feet, enter. So that should just kind of match what other walls are doing there. So from here, we kind of realize there's no floor or ceiling. And ceiling, we can leave it as a loss, as it will be easier to deal with the rest of the stuff without the ceiling. But also, let's go ahead and put down the floor. So architecture, and then the floor, we'll just put down the generic 12-inch flooring here. We can pick the walls instead of trying to come up with a rectangle, as it is not exactly a rectangle. And then on the front, we can just follow one of the line here. It doesn't really matter where exactly it falls. And then we can accept that, and the floor has come in. And because this side is a mall, we don't want it to be complete infinity. So we're gonna go ahead and select the floor again and then create similar, and then just do a rectangle to create a different set of floor out here on the mall side. It just needs to be somewhat big so that we later understand that as a mall floor. Let's go ahead and accept that. Let's look at that in 3D. Okay, so things are in order, and let's change that view to sort of the shaded mode so that we see the color as well, because we're about to paint these walls into a specific color. So in order to paint them, we can go to manage and then the materials, and then once you are in the material, let's search for paints to see if there is any sort of paint that exists on the project. It doesn't seem to be, so let's go ahead and create new material. And then we're gonna increase the size of this window a little bit, and then rename this as paint black. On the identity, we're gonna confirm that it is actually called paint black, and then we're gonna change this class into as a paint. And then on the appearance tab, it just has a generic, let's look at the information, it's a generic number 10, and then we need to pick a specific paint or a paint material. So let's go ahead and replace this asset with actual paint. So in here, we're gonna search paint, and there's a lot that's gonna show up in both the Autodesk physical assets and also appearance library. And I'm just gonna use Autodesk physical, and you can choose whichever that you like, but I'm gonna go ahead and choose from the Autodesk physical assets. Here we have sort of a pink. I guess we can choose the pink, or I guess the black, we can start from there. So choose that one. So once I do that, this one should change to black. All right, so we're gonna change that to black paint, and then that is fine. We can accept that. And then we're gonna need some other paints as well. So we can duplicate this one, and then we're just gonna call it paint red. So we're gonna keep the storefront color as red. So that's why I'm just changing this to red. And then you're gonna have to duplicate the appearance tab as well. So duplicate that, and then we're just gonna call that red paint. This is the hassle of making all the appearance correct, but it's sort of the standard practice. Let's make it bright red. And then again, duplicate this one, and then we're gonna actually name this one as coffee. And again, duplicate the appearance, and then just change that to, if you have specific RGB numbers, then you can actually choose the RGB color there as well. But I'm just gonna eyeball this, and we can judge the accurate color since I trust this monitor. And then we can just duplicate another one, and then just call it paint white. And then just make it white. It's never complete white, so we're just gonna reduce it slightly down. It's a good practice for rendering stuff. So let's go ahead and okay that. So we've got color palette of 4 different paints, and then we're gonna have to actually split the faces so we can color them correctly. If we look at the sample image, notice how the first portion of the wall, the first 8 feet or so, is actually colored as white, but we're gonna paint that as black. And the column, same story. We have a little break here, so 8 feet is going to be coffee color as a new design, and then the top 2 feet would be white. Same thing here on the wall, so that would be white, and then sort of the black for these MDF that the store already has. So we're just gonna color them to black. And I just realized if that is 8 feet, the threshold is supposed to be 7 feet instead. So let's go ahead and change that. So here on the threshold, I can just select that one here and then change that to 7 feet instead. 7 feet, and then I need to rename that. Okay. And then we're gonna put down some split faces. So split face is SF for short, and you can also find that by going to modify and then just clicking this icon here. And then for this one as a starter, I'm just gonna highlight that specific face, and then it's gonna highlight something like this. And then I'm just gonna draw a line here and then move the line up since I don't have much of a reference point. So move it up by 8 feet. Enter, and then basically I can just extend these lines up to the end of those faces. Same thing here, it will kind of nicely snap. That's sort of the best way I found to do this split face that is looking like it is not straight, and then we can accept that. And same practice for all around the wall. And sometimes if you don't terminate all the way to the orange line, it may give you an error, so you have to do that. So I have gone ahead and assigned 8 feet split face line all around except the storefront columns, and then I need to do that on the column as well. So let me go ahead and do that to all 4 sides. Okay, once we have split the column, let's go ahead and paint it. It's PT for short, and then it is going to be coffee, and then I can just paint that. And notice how it is not really changing color, and it is because I have not enabled the rendering appearance. So let's go ahead and go to manage materials, and then on here I can check on the use render appearance for all of those 4 paints that I have created. And once I do that, the coffee color really should show up, and then just paint onto the surface here. And if you can't blend it, just tap the tab a few times so that you can blend it. And the top would be white, and then also on these above 8 feet wall, so all the white, and then also black on the walls. Okay, and the rest of the storefront furring should receive red. So let me go ahead and put down red. Okay, so since the column is also colored, let's go ahead and put that onto correct positions. So this one I can go ahead and then copy CO so that I can just put it onto all the intersections. So let's go ahead and put down meaningful measurements that might be useful for anyone looking at this plan. So let's go ahead and make that into slightly more rounded up numbers. And then instead of these elevations, I want the interior elevation in the space so we can actually look inside. So let's get rid of some of these and then just leave out the top one. I'm going to change the elevation type from the building elevation to interior elevation. So we're going to go ahead and change the name, the elevation. So we're going to change that name to south. And along with that, we're going to turn on other views as well. So let's go ahead and move this specific view onto correct position. So select both of the name and the elevation marker, and then that will just kind of bring it into correct spot for the interior elevation. And then I'm just going to click on these check boxes so that they actually come in as the elevation, and I'm gonna actually get rid of this south one and then just recreate it. So again, just click on the checkbox, and then this specific one can now be as south. The reason why I have done that is because it automatically understands where the wall is supposed to stop. And I guess in this case it didn't because there's no storefront or the glass to base off of. And the far clip is somewhat useful automatically. So south, that one, and this is supposed to be east. So let's go ahead and change that name. east. You can also change it on here if you wish to, and if your property bar is a lot bigger than mine. And here I'm gonna be typing north, and then here it is west. Okay, so we've got the elevation marker. Let's move the room tag a little bit further away so we understand. And let's look at the plan again to see what we are missing. It seems like we've got most part, so we can put down the ping pong tables and also the ceiling so that we can just kind of cap it off. Let's look at the 3D. Everything is looking like a box that we have intended for. So let's look at the ceiling plan, level 1. There's nothing obviously, so go ahead and go to architecture, and then we're going to put down ceiling. It is 2x2 ACT system, and it is going to have trouble locating it exactly because of this front not existing. So what we are going to do is, for the ease of practice, we're just going to put down one wall right out here and then put down the ceiling. So 2x2, confirm that. The height of the ceiling is coming at 10 feet is what we are intending it to be. And automatic ceiling should be enabled, and it is highlighting the red zone. Click on that. It is not showing it because the view range is wrong, but we're just going to click that anyways. And then VR for view range. So from here, the top, we're just going to increase that to, let's say, about 3 feet above the level 2, and then 3 feet over here as well. And that should actually show up. The reason for that is because if we go to north, notice how the ceiling is coming in right around there at the level 2. So we're just giving it a little bit more depth so that we can actually see the ceiling. So let's go back to level 1, and then we're going to put down some lights. For putting down the light system, we can go to systems and then look for the light fixture. And there's not going to be any family loaded at the moment, so I'm just going to load in a new one. I can go to the lighting and then architectural internal, and then there's going to be something like troffer light, and it is supposed to be actually 2x4 troffer light, and it is supposed to be sort of the flat kind. So we're gonna have to modify the family, but for now let's go ahead and put that one in. It doesn't really snap. This is just the nature of Revit. So we're just gonna put it in sort of arbitrary spots, and then we're gonna try to line up the grid too. So on the back wall, we're just gonna datum from the back wall, and then also perhaps where this corridor is, AL for align, and then we're just going to align the grid line here. Same thing for the back one here, since we probably will be able to see it, and then datum off of this wall here again. So we're not going to worry about these ceilings over here, but at least we just kind of match this one here. So the troffer light is supposed to be aligned with this grid line. So we're going to grab the midpoint of this light and then unconstraint, and then snap onto the bid line, which is impossible. So we're going to snap onto this intersection and just move that down. That way everything is lined up correctly. So once we put down the light correctly around this column, then everything should be fine. From what I know, the light is actually supposed to be somewhere here around this specific column. Let me confirm that on the screen. So on here, it is just off of that column. The line is kind of matching up here, so we need to nudge one down, and then we are at the intersection of that one. So maybe that is not the case. So let's move the grid line a little bit so that it is landing onto that specific column there. Let's go ahead and nudge the grid line. So center line of the column, we're just gonna nudge the grid. Onto the grid line is the ceiling line. So there you go. And this troffer light is supposed to be one grid over. So that's the starting point. And then it is every other grid. So it is going to be one here and then repeating grid lines, something like that. And in terms of top and bottom, it would be something like this. So we just need to populate all of this. Select all the lights only, so filter, lighting elements, and then I can also use the array function. I'm not going to group all of this. So first one to second, and then it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roughly. So maybe 5. And then I can just click on here and then there, it is going to repeat 5 times. Same practice over here. So actually from here, I think we can just move this light on the front once more over less grid so that we have even light throughout on the front as well. And the truffer light is actually looking like with a little grill or the truffer at the bottom of it. I don't know if you can tell here, but let's go ahead and change that because I want it to look like a flat LED panel. So here I can actually look at the elevation as well. So go ahead and go to the elevation, the front, and then I can just do WT so that I can tile all the windows, ZA to zoom everything to extent. And then here I can go ahead and delete this portion of this truffer, both of the parts. And then this back panel is needing to come down, and you can see that on the elevation. And it is not showing correctly because it's not wireframe. So once the wireframe is shown, notice how I can see that if I try to move this, it won't come down because this is extruded with the thickness here. So I just need to change these values. So I'm gonna do 1/4 inch so that it comes further down. And then I'm gonna do 1/2 inch here so that it just goes up. So there's a little indentation there before the light panel starts, but that's pretty much it in terms of how I'm going to keep. Because these lights have these sort of symbolic line on it, so I wanna get rid of that as well. So on this view, I'm gonna go to ceiling plans, reference plane, and then I can just select these lines, holding down Control key, and then delete those so that it goes away, and then I can just load that on to the project. If you wish to save that specific family, you can save it out, and that is fine. If I want to return to just a one full screen, and then instead of WT, it's reverse, it's TW, and then it undo the tiling of the window. So from here, everything is looking good from what I can see here. I noticed that I have left a Shopfront that I put in, so I'm going to delete. Let's go ahead and put some ping pong table. If you look in here, I actually have downloaded this specific ping pong table off of 3D Warehouse, Google 3D Warehouse. SketchUp's biggest library will come up and you can pretty much look for anything here. You can utilize just searching something and finding something that is suitable for you. So I have something like this here and downloaded and then just kind of modified to my liking and making sure the layers are clean, the tags are clean, so I can just kind of clean up things on my own. And actually, because Revit only takes 2019 version of SketchUp, I don't know why, but they only do, so we're gonna have to back save it. So I'm gonna open this specific file, and it is opened up in SketchUp Pro 2020 version. So from here, I'm gonna save as, and then I'm gonna save as 2019 version and just save over it. And then once I do that, I can close out and then go into Revit. And then from here, I can insert, and I can actually bring it as a link as well. Here I can bring it as link CAD and then find that specific folder that contains it, and there's going to be a SketchUp file, and you can only bring in 2019 version as I have said, so ping pong table, and then everything is going to be as a default. It's going to come in at level 1, open, and once that comes in, and then it comes in like that. And from here, I need to unpin this so I can actually move this thing around. So I can actually put it to wherever I think it should go. So let's go ahead and hide the floor for now so we can actually see the PDF plan that we have underneath it. Hide the floor. And then so I can actually place these tables in the position that I think it should be. So let me go ahead and copy that and then rotate this as well. So the basic principle is the fact that you can utilize the large library content of 3D Warehouse and bring that into Revit if it is a simpler form. If it is not something that is really organic, then it's not going to triangulate as much, something simple as a table. So I have carried this into my plan and it should work fine, and it should even take materiality that this file has into the later Lumion rendering as well. It's just easier to lay things out here. Let me just show you what that space actually looks like. So recently I took a picture of the space. These are some photos that you can see, but also we have 360 photo available. So that is currently what the space looks like. So we have this concept of some of the tables on this side. I think I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's 2 tables over here. There's some ornaments against the wall. It is black. And then it is painted coffee and white on top with the black. So it is very economically done, and there is a large logo plate there along with the Olympic sign, which is kind of clever. Instead of this floor material, we're gonna put down some concrete, exposed concrete like this. So that's what we're gonna attempt to do. There's gonna be some barricades that are along the floor so that the spaces are kind of divided apart. We're gonna try and demonstrate that as well. And I'm gonna highlight the PDF. I'm gonna delete it as I no longer need it, and then reset hide to unhide the floor as well. So here, unhide the floor. And then that's it. I'm gonna save it. So that is summing up all the Revit portion of this project and the preparation that we need to do before we jump in to the Lumion side. And then let's go into Lumion. The Lumion version that I'm about to use is actually version 10.5, but also there's one more plugin that you're gonna have to install onto your Revit so that it enables sort of the LiveSync. That's what the add-in is called. So we're gonna use that, and I'll demonstrate how to use that. So from the Lumion website, we're gonna go to support and learning, and from here, the downloads, we're gonna look for the LiveSync of Revit, and then we're gonna try and download that. And once that has downloaded, and then you're probably going to have to close your Revit as well. So let's go ahead and close that, and I'm just gonna run the installer. So install now, install that. And once that is installed, I can just restart the Revit. And you may be greeted by this message here, so I'm going to always load, and then I'm gonna load my project Gym01, and then from here notice how there's a Lumion tab, and then I can just click on the Start LiveSync. Please select 3D view before starting the Lumion, so I can just go to the regular 3D view, and once that is loaded, I'm gonna click on the play button again, and I'm gonna start the Lumion now, yes. And if you have not run Lumion prior, you're gonna go through the whole benchmarking process before the model actually shows up on your screen. But if you have done that before, then this should load after a few moments. And once it has opened up, you can see, you can kind of zoom around quite quickly, and then look at the space as you have built it inside of Revit. And I want to kind of park it here and perhaps go on to the photo mode and then save that spot. And perhaps I can move a little bit to the center, looking down all the way to the middle, and then store that spot as well. Perhaps I could be a little lower, so something like this. Let's update that. And if we go here, I can perhaps go a little bit higher and look down as well. So I can go back to build mode, and then I can just kind of snap this window to the right and Revit to the left. That way I can kind of show you the plan view. And here the LiveSync is allowing you to move element inside of Revit, and then that is supposed to update on Lumion side as well. I'm going to undo that change so that it snaps back to where it should be, but I just wanted to demonstrate that this is actually live. And this is really useful because in Lumion you never get sort of the flat on the plan view or the elevation view, whereas in Revit you never get nice visuals as what Lumion is going to put out. So you can use both of them together. I'm going to just maximize Lumion screen for now so we can play with the material. And if I want to play with the material, I select the material tag here, and then from here I can change the default floor material. I can actually change this on the Revit side as well to assign this sort of the concrete material, but I can also go here, outdoor, concrete, and then I can assign something like maybe that one that is looking too clean. So let's go ahead and choose something like this. and then save changes. The front is more like a plaster material, so I can go to outdoor and then plaster a texture of something like this, but then I need color, so I just click on this once more, and then on the colorization I can just change it to red, maybe a little bit darker, and then I can just bring up the colorization so that it brings up that color. The material is looking a bit too big. I want it a more fine grain, so I can just reduce the map scale. So you see how easy that was. And then on the ceiling, the grid is actually looking terrible. So by default, Revit's ceiling grid is not recommended to be used. So let me go back and save the changes and then actually change it on Revit side instead. So if we go to the ceiling plans, selected compound ceiling 2x2 ACT system, we can go to edit type and then go to the structure, and then the material is this one right here. Let's go ahead and edit that. And as an appearance, it is going to look something like this one, and it is quite pixelated, and the grid itself is quite large, or sorry, the frame around the grid is quite large. So let's go ahead and change that. And conveniently, Autodesk includes different ceiling grid that is easier or better to be used. So this one here, ceiling tile dots, and this is a bump map, and this one is actually what it's supposed to be. So here, instead of this finishes ceiling acoustical tile exposed grid, you can use ceiling tile dots, arrow, gap, and that should be it. And overall size should be slightly different, so you can click on it, and then this is coming out 16 feet, so it's rather than 2x2, it is coming out 8x8. So let's go ahead and change the size as well. So here, let's increase the window size and then change that to 4x4. That way it is 2x2. Done, and okay, and okay. Okay, once that goes into the the Lumion side, that should update nicely. So the ceiling is now done in 2x2. All the lights are in the spot, and notice how the light is not turned on. So you can just highlight that material, glass white, luminance, go to standard material, and then here show the extended settings. Under settings, there is emissive, so you can increase the brightness however you like to. I'll just kind of park it here. So we just kind of lit the scene, and it is looking quite nice. And as we do that, for some reason this has happened. Acoustic ceiling tile is not coming in correctly. I do not know why. I think this is part of a little bit of strangeness in what the material is scaled at or placed at. So let me just kind of go ahead and nudge that. I've seen that before. I don't exactly understand what is going on in the background. Let me just confirm it is indeed 4 feet. Let me just kind of nudge that a little bit by changing its value. 4 feet tile, yes, okay, okay. And then let's see if it updates again in here. Okay, that's good. All right, so once we have done that, everything is looking good. Now we need to have sort of the horizontal lines across this MDF board that we painted black. So instead of just plain black paint, I would like to change that into the boards. So let's go ahead and choose some siding material, wood perhaps, and then we can choose some slat type of material. I've seen one that is kind of like this, and that is completely vertical, not to worry. So I can click on that, and then I can actually do the rotation. The heading, if you do that, it just runs up and down, and if you increase the pitch, then it basically rotates. You can kind of see how it rotates in the back as well. So basically all I need is something like this, just around 90 degrees. And if you have trouble landing the wholesome number, then you can double click it. Once it becomes red, you can just kind of delete the numbers and 90 enter, and that will be 90 degrees. So everywhere it is sort of horizontal, and that is a bit too big. So let's go ahead and reduce the scale size, maybe somewhere there. That is looking better. I don't like how the top is ending. So if you want to do a bit more fine control, I can hold down shift key. That way it just kind of does this sort of fine control. So that's good. We just need that to be black instead of this woody color. So colorization is black already, so I can just kind of bring that up. I kind of like the warm wood tone instead of complete black, so I'm just gonna leave it there. So that is looking good so far. So there was a central circular sign back here, so we're gonna put that inside of Revit. Let's go ahead and start a new family, and then it is going to be English Imperial, and then also generic wall base family. Open that. And once you are in the placement side here, and then I can do insert, import CAD, and then I can locate that specific CAD file, and it came in really small. I just want this to be somewhere around, I would say about 6 feet. So unpin that, and then we can change the scale by going to edit type, and then change that to scale factor of 10. Let's see how big that becomes. Let's try and measure 6 feet, a little bit big, but we can work with that. So let's place that into the middle like so, and then we can basically either trace or just draw this from using these guidelines. It's not really showing anything as it is a 2D line, so I can go to create, extrusion, and then I can draw from the center of the circle or just pick line for that matter, and then I can have sort of an inch of extrusion, and that's probably going to go dig into the wall. So you see how that has dug into the wall, so that's got to be negative figure, so 1 inch. There you go. And then the rest of the sign is gonna be a extrusion off of those planes. So come here and then create extrusion again, and then we can start to trace all of these lines like so. And once you have done that, make sure you also set -2 inches and then -1 inch on the start. That way you can kind of confirm that it is extruding off of that plane there. So you should be able to draw a symbol. And to fast forward this process, let me go ahead and bring in the family that I have made ahead of time. So in here you can see this, and this already have received some materiality as well. So if I go to manage materials, the same way we have developed the paint, there is a sign black, and then there is a sign white. You can accept that. So this extrusion itself was received as a sign black, and then the back one actually received as a sign white, but the outer edge has been painted as black. That's what I have done. And once that is done, I can load that into the project. Do you want to save changes? Yes, since that is a saved out family. And then this is now loading in that specific sign, and I can just allocate that onto back wall here somewhere around the center. You can't really tell because this is sort of the thin sign that is going up against the wall, but if we go to the 3D view, you can see that it has been updated right there, but that is floating a little bit high, so we can reduce the elevation from to, let's say, about 1 foot high. If I go to Lumion side, it should be visible there as well. And you can see how it is sort of becoming segmented, and that is a setting of the LiveSync. If you have that sort of issue, you can kind of stop the LiveSync, go to settings, and then surface smoothing to be increased high. Then basically it will allow it to be more circular. There you go. So that has updated. Everything is actually looking quite good at the moment. So let's go ahead and look at the photo section. And these two are the spots that I have previously saved. And if I just click on this view, it's gonna kind of update the scene and properly do the lighting and everything. And if I want to increase, if I want to modify a little bit, I can build with effects and then highlight the light perhaps, and then increase the emissiveness slightly higher, and then I can save that. And then this goes back to the photo mode. That way I have a bit more light in the scene, perhaps this one as well. Everything is looking quite good. Now I've got to place a few more objects. So the one that I want to put another inside of Revit was the Olympic sign that goes on the south of the wall. But this is not a Revit family that I have created. It was actually an asset that I have made inside of SketchUp. So if I were to double click and then just open that up, I just pretty much made this inside of SketchUp and then assigned some material so that it is representative of the type of paint or finish that I intend to put on, and that's it. I didn't bring this from 3D Warehouse. I just kind of drew the circle and then extruded myself. Maybe we can make it a little bit thicker. So let's move these slightly upwards. Okay, so that's good. I just need to save that out as 2019 version, Olympic ring. And once that is saved, I can actually include that into a family. So rather than linking a DWG file or linking SKP file directly, I can embed this thing inside a family and start to assign sort of the parameter if you want to do a bit more advanced stuff. So let me just go ahead and demonstrate that. I go to family, same thing, wall-based, generic family. So generic wall base. Open, and then from here onto the placement side, I can go to insert, import CAD, and again I'm gonna look for SketchUp file here, and then Olympic ring. I'm gonna bring in everything and it should be coming in fine. Unpin that so you can move it, and then I'm just gonna move it to the center, and then perhaps about 2 feet higher up, and that's it. I just need that to be on the face of the wall depending on how thick the wall is. So I just need to make sure I look at from the top and then make sure the surface is snapped. So align and then snap onto here and then lock it so that no matter how thick the wall is, I change it to 12 feet, it moves along on the surface of the wall. I just need to save this as something so that I can later use it. Basically, I'm gonna save it as the rings, and then load into project and close. Once it gets loaded, I can just kind of hover over this space and then just click here, and then notice how it just comes in. And once that comes in and I just look at it from the 3D view, notice how that came in here. It is a bit high, so let's reduce it back down to 1 foot again so that it is within that zone, and go back to Lumion side and notice how that just came in. So far I have covered a method how to bring in PDF, and I also have shown you how to link SketchUp file onto Revit directly, but I also showed you how to use SketchUp file inside of the family so you can add some parameters to the Revit family so that it behaves just like the regular Revit model. But instead of going into Revit, we're going to go directly into Lumion, as Lumion is capable of taking different file extensions and putting into the model composition. So let me just kind of demonstrate that as well. So we just need to put down some barriers in between so that we can demonstrate it correctly. To cut down time, I have also developed this in SketchUp. So in here, I can go to objects and then import and then find the folder that I'm looking for. And then there's a barrier SketchUp file. And this one doesn't need to be back saved as 2019 version. And the model name is going to be barrier. Everything is fine. Import edges, lines, no, I don't need to. Okay that. And once that comes in, you can see it nicely how that is coming in as all the materials together. Let me just show you the composition of this inside of SketchUp. And there's nothing really fancy. It is just made with some piping, and I have added this sort of JPEG over it. So I have this image here that I have applied to the barrier, and that's it. But it understands all the materiality inside of Lumion side, and this does not have to be 2019 format. And once it comes in, I can just kind of hover over the space and put them down as I need them to be. And I can do a bit more fine control by just moving this and holding down shift button so that it stays flush up against the floor. So I have to go through trouble of laying this down all over the place, and it is a little bit more difficult to do in sort of perspective mode. So I can go to 3D view here inside of Revit and actually hide the ceiling and the light. So select the light and the ceiling, and then I can go to hide category. So basically that has hidden all the ceilings and the light. And you can go to Lumion and notice how the top is off now. And then I can go about putting them into the right position where I feel it is right. And once you want to copy over, I can hold down Alt key, and you can also choose multiple ones and then copy over as well. If I need to rotate and put something in between, let's say I want to put something down here. So let's say I click this one and then copy this over here. And then if I want to rotate, hit R once. And then as I kind of hover over, it will be able to snap onto those axes. And then M for move again. And then I can just divide again, Alt for copying over. So here I can hold down Control key and then do a drag selection. I need to unselect this one. So it's just the barriers itself, and just kind of move along this way. And then we're gonna put down some furnitures. Obviously you are strengthened by a lot of assets that are available inside of Lumion. So you can pick out what you want exactly. You double click, and then there is huge library of furnitures and contents that you can put in. In this case, I just need like a table and chair set. So let's pick out the table first. I don't have anything in particular, so let's just go through a few. And perhaps this round table here. Let's put one down here and here. And back here, there's actually a vending machine, so we can look for a specific vending machine that you like to have. I'm fine with this one here, and then that one perhaps here, and then also some chairs that are sensible. This one actually I want to rotate about 45 degrees so that it is up against the wall like that, and then hold down Alt key, R, so that I can rotate. And that's it. So once I have put those things down, I can actually highlight all four and then hold down Alt key to move it to a different position. Hold down Shift so that I'm moving along the plane. Okay, so that has been placed. I need another barricade. Go ahead and put the ceiling back. So you just need to reset temporary, isolate. And once you have done that, it comes back in, and on Lumion you can see that as well. So you can basically see how everything is kind of laid out. Actually, let's go back to the photo mode and see how that one looks like. It is looking a bit too flat, and it is not supposed to be this flat and kind of rigid barrier. So I want that to be a bit more loose. So if we go here, select the material, and then I can actually go to standard. And in here, there's sort of the weathering possible. And plastic, I just click on plastic and then increase weathering a little bit so that there's a little bit of washing on the plastic itself, the material itself. It'll be more apparent in the photo mode, but I just wanted to kind of introduce that a little bit. And then everything else is looking fine, even the ceiling is. And before we go ahead and export all of these views, it can be kind of enhanced. We can put some effects on the scene. So let's move that up a little bit and store camera. So here under the custom style, let's pick out the interior. That's probably the most sensible thing to do. And notice how the light is just really bright in this scene, although everything else just really come to life, and this is a bit too brown and it's too bright. So we go to the material, and then we can just reduce the emissivity down a bit so that it's not as bright. Okay, there you go. And then make sure this is not too brown, so let's bring up the colorization of black a bit further up. Okay, that is looking still a bit too brown. The light is actually making much more sense. So materials again, colorization up. Okay, so I actually see a bit of light here that is coming from the outside. So let me go back here and then change the time of the day. I can just change the time of the day by here. I don't really want direct light coming into the scene. So let's go ahead and actually disable the real sky. That way no light is coming in that way. And then change the sun heading on the sun setting here. Alright, that's more like what I have intended to be. So once I have done that, I can go to here, menu, edit, and then I can copy the effects and then go here onto the scene and then edit and then paste the effects so that it receives exact same effect. So that's pretty much where I would like it to be for this session. So from there, I can render photos, photo sets, and then print. And then from there, I can just save it out to desktop. This is the test 01, save, and then it is going to quickly save all of those things. So you can obviously play with the material a bit more and add more detail into the scene, more entourages, more people, more furnitures to bring the scene into life. But for the purpose of this video, I think I have highlighted the most basics to get you going all the way from Revit from scratch to Lumion and do a render process, and you can now start to discuss your design with your client, with your colleague. How is the area? How are the tables? Are they oriented correctly? You can look at the plan and discuss those aspects, and then also look at the visual and then see how the logo is playing, how the signage is playing, how the materials are working. Is it okay with the specific color of a paint? How can we tone down certain aspects? You can certainly carry on those type of design discussions. And thank you again, MSI, for sponsoring this video. You guys be sure to check out their workstation laptops such as this WS75 here. And I'll be sure to leave a link in the description for you guys to follow and check it out. Great performing laptops like this one makes it really ideal for 3D modeling and rendering tests like this tutorial. And the weather in my area has been really great lately. I probably could have done all of these tests if it was for myself outside in the sun enjoying the weather with this laptop. And if you have enjoyed this content and learned a thing or two, then please like the video and subscribe to my channel for content like this. And thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye.